legends, welcome to Veloharmony. Today's ride is going to be a surprise location. We're heading north of the city to an area called Montgomery County, and because the climbing there is 3 times as intense as what we normally climb. It's about 800 or 900 meters by the time we're done with the ride, and by mid-April there will be a grand fund that we'll be participating in. So we're trying to do some preparatory work, so we want to make sure that we're prepared for those kind of climbs. The climbs are what they call thick and fast. They're just never ending, back to back for hours. So we have to get ready for that, and I wanted both of us to get very familiar with the course. So I prepared a course, plotted it, downloaded it to my Garmin, and I haven't used the course turn by turn on the Garmin 1000 before. The settings were a little off, so it wasn't giving me turn by turn because it was disabled. I've got that sorted now after the first ride, but so we were off course a couple of times. It did let us know. But I've set it up to where in the future it will actually give us turn-by-turn directions. So that will be a lot easier, so we won't have to retrace our steps like we did on the first ride that you will see shortly. So without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this ride. It was a very intense Saturday. Hello legends and super legends. Veloharmony is doing a ride today from the north side of town. We're in Montgomery. We're at Montgomery High School. I don't know if you can see the sign over there. Probably not. And Paul and I are going out to, there's a grand fondo that we're going to be doing, and we're going to do a part of the course today. And then next week we'll try to do more of the course. But lots of climbing today. So get ready, hang on. We're taking you for a ride. Watch out, car up. Huh? Will give us turn-by-turn directions. I hate this road. You see, this road has those ridges. Those ridges, you don't want to ride on that. I don't know if you can see that. The camera picks it up very well. So we're staying a little to the left of that. It's like riding on a washboard if you ride on that. They're very uncomfortable. They're designed to keep drivers alert if their car starts going off the road. If they're not paying attention and they leave the lane. A little bit later we move to the right of it because the shoulder gets wide enough to where there's space to the right of it, and we jump on that. It's a busy road, 1 lane, so there's enough space. So we're right here, we're riding to the right of it. And then shortly after this, Paul tells me there's something going on with his head unit. It's not picking up his cadence. So we will stop and deal with that and check it out and make sure we get that set. Because when you're climbing, you kind of want to be aware. It's nice to have everything working.
Paul's having an issue with his head unit. Well, just you need to go ahead and activate. What's changing?
It's giving me multiple. You see, multiple cadence.
Say yes.
Module. No, I said okay because it gives me okay.
Yeah.
But it's still turning the unit off. Cadence antenna.
It has multiple cadence sensors registered that are on, that are enabled. It's not picking up your cadence?
Nope. It's not.
Lone Star Parkway.
So we got that sorted.
That's the 149 we came down, remember?
Yeah.
We went to schools on the left that we went to.
What the situation was that Paul has
That's the
the
school. We went to the school over there.
Garmin 800.
Junior school.
I've got the 1000, and I think they made some changes to the firmware in that. You can have multiple sensors on the 1000, and all of them can be turned on, and they will still work. On the 800, it appears that you can have them in there, you just can't activate all of them at the same time. So we had to turn off the other ones that were active, and then he had to restart his computer,
Works for me
and that
is
took
those,
care of it.
Oxy thing.
I just wash it by hand.
I got some kind of dirt on my sock while we were messing with the cadence meters and checking.
Stuff like this, I wash it by hand.
And so we're talking about getting the stain off the sock, and I told him I just wash it by hand. But what we learned on this little escapade is that the cadence will not come up when you just stand and spin the bike for a brief moment. Once we started riding, the cadence shows up. So the situation Paul was having is that because in the 800, the features, even though you can put multiple cadence, you can't have them all turned on. Then it tells you got multiple, and then you have to go back and turn off some. It doesn't tell you to turn them off.
Yeah.
That's how it turned on the left. I wasn't aware of it. We kept going. Because the turn by turn on this unit was not enabled, by default the 1000 is turned off. Right here it tells me we're off course. It will beep. It will tell me we're off course, but since the turn by turn was not enabled and I wasn't on the map.
Oh yeah.
So right here it says we're off course. I'm looking for an opportunity for us to turn around. So if you're viewing the map, it shows you the turns because the map is there. I have the map in 3D. It's very easy to view. But when I got back after this ride, I went ahead and turned on the feature that will give you turn by turn. So even if you're not on the map, it will pop up on whatever screen you have displayed. This is a climb here. Just trying to get far enough that we can have visibility to turn around when it's safe. This is Lone Star Parkway. We need to go back and take that little street.
Let's do a U-turn.
It does recalculate. If you go another way, it will recalculate it, but I wanted to do the actual course. So once I realized that they shipped the Garmin 1000 with turn by turn disabled, I went in and turned that on. So for the next ride, I don't like to be on the map. I just like to have my cadence and other things displaying. Even though the map gives you a couple of displays, I much rather be on my regular display screen and let it just tell me when it's time to turn. And that's what turn by turn gives you. So that's been sorted. So we missed a couple of turns on the ride, but other than that, we're good. Because I knew the main areas. It's just the little streets that they're going to be using on the course.
Okay.
And pretty much out of the gate, you're climbing, and everything looks so pretty. And so as we go around this curve, I tell Paul, I said, man, look at that road. So at this point, we begin to see just pieces of the climb coming up. We rolled through here. You can see my cadence is up.
we're kind of, this is just a slight downhill to almost flat. So we really haven't hit the grade at this point. And, you know, of course, it's early in the ride.
Oh, man. I'm filming it, man.
That's the climb to the left there. That curve is just beautiful, you know. From being around the Houston area where most of the places are flat. I mean, we live on the north side, so we've got some climbs, but most of Houston is relatively flat. When you come across these, they're just beautiful. And it goes on and on. I mean, it's like, this is like 30, maybe 40 minutes from our house by car. This is a little north of Raven Chapel that we always go to ride on. So we just drove further out this time to really get into the deep hills. And you feel right here, you can see the road.
1097, my brother.
Yeah.
And it gets up quickly. Look at that 5%. The overlay is pretty close, you know. And you see I was doing about 100 and something. I just kind of let my cadence fall. I knew we had to turn. This is an intersection. We're going to turn right on this highway here. I think it's 1097. I'm waiting for a car. He sees me. He moved over. You know, I'm going to jump in front of you, buddy. You know, he didn't trust me. He wasn't taking any chances. They're used to cyclists being out here. This is one of the areas a lot of people come to ride. There's a Woodlands Marathon coming up in April also, so a lot of the triathletes are training out here. We saw a bunch of people getting ready for the MS 150 that's coming up the end of April. We're not doing that ride, but a lot of people are. They're preparing for it. It was very windy. You can hear it. I've dubbed it down like I usually do, but it was out there, so the wind and the climb. It was a muggy 18C. I'm telling him about this other grade. It kicked in again a little bit, so it's just up and down. And even though it says 18C, it's not the regular 18C. It felt like 20 or 22. So it's just a very warm morning. And we were dressed right. I had a base layer on, and any warmer I probably would have had to take it off because I was slightly on the warm side. I run hotter than Paul. He was comfortable. We talked about it later. He said, yeah, he's the opposite. He runs a little colder than I do. I run hot. We both wore the same socks. We pre-arranged, communicated. We both wore our orange socks. I think I'm reaching for food here. I decided that since Paul has the camera, it's almost 30 minutes into the ride. I think I took out the banana bread, and what I did was I had taken extra for Paul as well, so he's got some in his pockets. But since he's got the camera, I'm checking for cars. I think he told me car back. This road is busy. The speed on this road is like 55 miles an hour posted, the limit. So it's a busy road. So that's why I'm using the shoulder. The shoulder's available. It just gives the traffic jam to move by. So once it's clear, what I do is, since I have the bag open, both of my hands are free, I'm eating one, and then I'm going to drift back and open the bag for Paul so he can get one to eat too. And then he does the same thing when he's eating and I have the camera. That way we both can get food in our system early on in the ride. And everything we're doing here is what we're going to do during the ride. That guy overdid it. He didn't need to go that far over, especially with oncoming traffic. But hey, we'll take the space. This was a little... His decision there was close for the other guy coming the opposite way. So I'm waving Paul up, and I got the bread ready for him to grab, so he can get something. So early in your rides, even if you ate at home, the first 30 minutes, the first hour, you got to get food in your system for hour 3 or hour 2, however long your ride will be. This ride ended up being 4 hours. And we did 100 kilometers, 104 kilometers. So you want to eat the solids early when you're not going too hard. That's what we're doing here. Yes, we can use the main lanes. I've talked about that before. But if there's a shoulder, why not? You know, this shoulder is safe, it's smooth. It may not be the widest, but it works. We've got a bit of a spray there's a little bit of rain. That's what you see on the lens. because it wasn't forecasted that it was going to rain, but there's a lot of moisture in the air. That's why I said it's a warmer 18C than we normally encounter. We came across quite a few people that were overdressed for this ride. We kind of fell for them. People had tights on and everything. This was not a ride for tights. It felt like an early summer morning more than anything. So the road around here starts to go up again. See, it says 1%. I think it kicks up to like 3.
Gonna be shifting the zoom, man.
So that's what Paul says. We're going to be doing a lot of shifting. So yeah, you're riding in the hills. Make sure your shifter is tuned.
Yeah.
So don't be shy to shift. All I'm doing is I'm keeping my cadence above 80. Because my plan today was to, since the first time we were riding this course for the Grand Fondo, was to keep my cadence up. Let my body acclimate to this terrain. Because in mid-April, we're coming out here to ride it for real. And you want to at least be familiar with the changes. Minus 3% descent here. So we got some decent speed. So it's your choice. You can decide whether you ride a descent or just enjoy it for a little bit. That's what I did. I coasted for a little bit. Once it leveled off, it's close to 0 now. I started to spin a little bit. Because, you know, if you're doing all this climbing, the speeds are slow. When you get a descent, enjoy the speed that it gives you. So you can see we're cruising at 40 kilometers an hour. It's slightly below 0 as far as the grade. It's not a very steep grade. It's not a big descent, so it might as well be flat. So we're working a little bit here in zone 2, and that's the plan of this ride. We plan to ride these hills and learn what they do. And so this is Lake Conroe. I'm telling Paul to film it. It's one of our biggest lakes in the area. We have a reservoir here. That's part of Lake Conroe. Look at that. There were some birds sitting on some of the areas where the land is exposed. They did a good job. Good shot, Paul. Great job. So this is the biggest lake in our area. People go there for boating, you know, not right in that spot that we went over, but it covers a big part of this county, the county of Montgomery. I think I get the cameras. I think that's why I'm calling.
It gives a different perspective. Remember that day we were riding early in the ride?
Oh yeah, the shoulder's wide. So I told him let's ride side by side for a while.
And then you can eat.
So he's reaching his pocket for food. Yeah, you gotta take advantage of it. Even when you're riding organized rides, do the same thing you do in training.
This
Get
is
your
a
food
different
in
terrain. This is just up and down all day long.
I got my shades hooked into the back of my jersey.
It's not supposed to rain, but there's a mist right now. That has to be Lake Conroe. We don't have that many large lakes out here. And this is right north of 105.
I was telling Paul it had to be Lake Conroe. We just went over. It's beautiful.
I've had 2, so that's good.
He gave me a banana bread. I told him I already had 2.
Banana bread. Those of you who want to make your own, it's recipes on the channel in the nutrition playlist.
That's it, the right stuff.
Early in the ride, it's time to eat. We're eating for hour 2 and 3.
This is when you learn what your body likes. Use the same stuff when you do your rides that you do in training. Don't try new things in a ride. Even if they offer it for free, pack it, take it home. and use it during your next training ride. Don't use it at the event. Stick with what you know. Even the drinks, the mixtures. Some people, like Reggie was telling me, lemonade, I think, and water or something upset his stomach. So certain combinations can affect people. Like I drink Gatorade and water in the summer, and he was asking me whether that didn't bother me. And so I suggested that he try it first. I lighten the Gatorade. I dilute it in the summer because I want more water when it's very hot. In the winter, I take it straight. In the summer, I dilute it at least 50% with water. So play with those kind of things. And once you find what works for you, stick with it. Even if they're giving you a free drink at a Grand Fondo that you don't know, stick with what you know. That's not the place to try new things. You don't want to have a bad time at an event.
Go ahead.
So I'll put an arrow here that shows you the turn that we missed. So because this shoulder is so narrow, we just stay close to the white line. And you know, the drivers are aware that we're not trying to hog the road. It's not a problem. You can see how wide the other guy passing. So you just have to be practical when you're out there. They see that you're being reasonable, and it's nice that you're considering the other road users. Yeah, we're off course again because there was a turn we just missed. It was one of these streets that was nondescript.
Turn in here.
So I told Paul the turn left is clear. We're gonna turn over here.
It doesn't make any sense.
The course that I downloaded because we want to do the actual
Turn over
course.
there.
You missed the turn over there?
Come on, follow me.
So we could go straight on this road, but it will take us more easterly than we need to go. And I want to do the actual course because they have mapped out the routes to where there's a lot of little, what I call, I'm not even going to say secondary road, you know, like just, you know, roads even beyond secondary roads that are even quieter. And I want to experience them because you might get one car every 15 minutes on those kind of roads. And this is it. We just missed the turn. That's why I did the course. It's easy to miss these kind of roads.
Yes.
Barely see it. And that's why they're quiet. And this is back on course right here.
It's a bypass road.
You got to sign bicycle share the road. So this is a road for cyclists. It's almost like those paths.
For a while with that 1097, but it kicks off over 1097. It takes us north.
It's like those paths you guys have in the UK where you have all those hedges the way it looks like a wall and it's neatly trimmed, you know, almost like the old roads that they used to use for wagons. And that's what this probably was before, and they came and paved it. So only people that have homes out here, there's not a whole lot of industry. This is a good shot from the side that Paul's getting. And so I wanted to experience the actual route because these kind of roads have steeper climbs than the main roads. I'm not sure what I said, but we were having so much fun. It's like as soon as I saw hills, I got excited. So you can see how small the lanes are. And you know, you're gonna get more potholes because they're not coming out here all the time to pave. But the traffic volume is so low. This is almost like a Hornier, Egypt kind of road, but probably on steroids, meaning that you have even fewer cars. And I was glad that I did that course. It's all in the details, guys. You have to plan when you do new things. And that's one of the benefits of the technology of the Garmin head units. And I'm sure the other ones probably have the same feature like Wahoo. I'm not that familiar with them, but if your head unit can let you put your course in there and pre-plan it, please do. Because this was an adventure for us. And because of that feature, we were able to really have a good time and not get turned around. We might have gotten passed by maybe 2 to 3 cars, and we're on this road for at least 40 minutes. You know, so that's the benefit of these kind of roads. This is just like a residential area road, just out in the country. People got their ranches and different things out here. So the road we got off is 55 miles an hour. This one's probably 30 or 35. And I love these kind of roads. So we found the socks that I'm wearing. I mentioned it in one of the other videos. You can see it picks up the orange on the right side of the jersey and also on the armband. We found that from the Rafa Pro Team socks. They just brought it out this spring. It's 20 bucks. I didn't wait for a sale, I just bought it. I've been looking for that color for a long time, and I already love their products anyway. And when I got it, once I wore it and matched so well, Paul got himself. I'm waving a car around. I can see around the curve, he can't. They appreciate that.
Yep.
Got to work together. We're all in this together. One planet. Don't let the people that misbehave put a sour taste in your mouth. Most people are decent and good. So I'm riding a 28 on the rear and a 25 on the front. Paul showed up when we're building the blade bike, I guess with a care package, and he brought those tires, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna definitely stick with this because I love it. The Colnago can take like a 32. I put that big 28 on there, and there's so much more space left. And I just kind of laughed. Like, those guys built this bike to handle anything. The tires, he's riding a 28 also on the rear, and I think a 25 in the front. It's so much more comfortable. I ran the same PSI. I have 95 in the rear and 90 in the front. So I got a 25 on the front, 28 on the back, and I just got hooked. Liked it so much, I ordered a 28 4000 S2, whatever they call it, to put on the orange bike that I'm going to use at the Gran Fondo. So I'm gonna stick with the 28. The blue bike cannot take a 28. It was built for 25 specifically. That's that bulldog aggressive bike. So I'll keep the 25 on that one. Hey, look at this road. It is my first time on this road, but thanks to the head unit that I have, you have the confidence to know that you're going the right direction. So now when we come to do the Gran Fondo, it will be familiar. It's kind of like a reconnaissance of a course for an event. We're close enough, why not? And it turns out we liked it so much, we're going to make this course a staple on the Veloharmony weekly rides. Even after the Gran Fondo, we'll be coming here at least once a month. We're going to mix it in the rotation because the climbing is just at another level. It's just going to make us that much stronger. Look at that. Look ahead. Look at that. That's what we're dealing with. Up and down, up and down. And some of them are longer. So right here is a slight descent, and then boom, it hits your legs. Right there. I shifted. I dropped the gearing. It got the 4%, 5%. You feel that. If you don't shift, you will feel it. If you look at my cadence, it's still up there. That's the benefit of you shifting. Don't be shy. Shift. That's why you have them. That's why you carry those gears. Use them. You're not riding a fixie. Why ride one gear? So this whole time we've been passed by two cars. Look ahead. Look at that little S ahead. S curve to the right, and then it's twisting. I think after this, I call Paul to the front. I don't know if it's right here or not. Look at that. Just enjoying the descent here. We put 43 kilometers. I'm telling Paul to come up. I told him I want to get him on film too. We exchanged the camera right there. This is another climb. 2% right here, 4%. Look, it went from 2 to 4. It just jumps, and you just feel it in your legs. So a lot of times I was shifting down 2 cogs at a time, just so I would be in a lower gear than I thought I needed. I didn't want to be shifting every second, because if you don't get the right gear and it bites, then you get inefficient. I wanted to keep my cadence 85 plus, and right now I'm in the 90s. I wanted to stress my aerobic system. So we didn't know what was coming, what's around the bend. The cool thing though is on the Garmin, you can go to a page that will show you the elevation. It's just that when I'm riding, I don't want to deal with all that. I just ride. I'm gonna just look at the road. I don't get into too much of the technology stuff. It's nice having the map to let us know that we're on course. But when I'm out there riding, I just want to be one with nature. Like back in the day, before all this technology, you just use your eyes. So I just look. I don't bother to find out what the elevation is before I get there. You can see the climb, you just ride it. And all the other analysis I do is after the ride. Because while I'm out there, I want to experience it. Just look at this beautiful wooded area, quiet. And this went on for miles and miles. I prefer to use the course versus a piece of paper because a lot of times you have to stop to look at paper. With it being on your Garmin, if you just have the map displayed, you just see like a navigation view. It's a lot easier than trying to fish out a paper and get to that right spot. So it's just better, you know, than using a paper map and have to worry about it. So this way was just better. I think I rolled to the front here. Paul takes the camera from me. You can see how that orange really works with the orange on the right side of the jersey and on the bottom of the stripes around the circles around the pant legs. We had a heck of a time matching that early on. So we've got some other oranges that don't quite match as well, but this has become our favorite. We stopped here briefly because we're looking for a place to pee because the school did not have the bathroom open when we got there.
Got this.
Go this way. Or the way to this guy.
So we're trying to decide, and that guy's back there with a truck coming down the road. I told Paul, this is too wide open. Let's find a place where there's a lot of blind spots. So the course continues left here. You will hear Paul ask me whether we're on course.
Are we still on course, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, we didn't get to pee.
Yeah.
There's no bathroom at the high school available. So look at this one.
Yeah, man. Don't forget about peeing, man.
I'm getting excited. Look at that. And it just continues up.
I have a 5.5 right here.
So I just have the map displayed. Anytime we came to an intersection I wasn't sure of, I just kept the map displayed.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So I stop over there to basically take a health break, relieve myself. Paul came up, I think, over here on this side because we have a line of sight and we got a lot of trees around here, so it's a good spot. Completely private. So back in the day when we needed to pee, you just stand on the side of the road and you pee. Pretty much, you find a private place like this and you just pee. I don't do what Paul's doing. He's walking all the way off the road in this corner. I just pee on the side, and I'm waiting for him here.
Look
So that's gonna be a separate clip. So what we must do is we must leave it on until we come to at least another intersection.
Okay.
That will help me synchronize it. Look at that car. That's beautiful.
We get excited when we see these climbs. This road is heading in a westerly direction. It ends up throwing off my bearings a little bit. When we get to the main highway, initially we turn to go south instead of north. Got a little turnaround because this road winds in a concave shape towards the west. But I love how quiet it is back in this stretch. The road is called Lake Mount Pleasant Road, the one we're on now, and then it will go up in a little while. We'll get to a road called Hidden Forest Road. That will take us to Highway 149, which is the main highway out here. That will take us to a town called Richards, which has a store. So it's important when you do your adventures, you know where the stores are and the towns and the different things, so that you can know how to plan your stops. It goes up again. You can basically see it. The gimbal has this thing framed right to where you can see the road going up. It says 4%. It was a little more than that. It's probably just rounding down. That's why I stood. I didn't want to shift, so I stood to roll the gear. And you can see, even though I'm standing, my cadence is right in the 80s. That's what I was talking about. It's a rhythm. You get used to whatever feels good to where you're not out of your comfort area. And you practice that. So I kept the cadence the same. I stayed in the same gear. I sat down after the crest of the grade. When the grade lessened is when I sat. That's the whole point of standing, to help you get over a steep grade. And I got my cadence back up. So even if you want to improve your cadence, don't just focus on flat roads. You can improve your cadence climbing as well, and let your body get used to something else. I'm going to make a video in the next few days, hopefully, to address a request from one of our earliest legends, Simon Moses. I want to do it in a format that would benefit everybody. He had left a message a while back, a couple of weeks or so, talking about chain sets and wanting to change from one crank set to another, you know, where you go from compact to mid-compact or standard. You know, so I'm just going to do it generally to where everybody can help make the decision. But the point I was trying to make is, you want to get ratios on your bike that enable you to keep your cadence in the range you're used to, or whatever goals you want to accomplish. Because if you find that you're working in a gear and you're at 80 RPMs, maybe I could use a bigger car. How about spinning that a little faster instead of using a bigger car? Challenge your body that way. You know, so that's what I was getting at. And so my plan for this ride was to keep my cadence 10 RPMs higher than where I normally climb. That's what I did in this ride. So instead of 75 to 85, it was 85 to 95. So it was something new. It's a different kind of workout for my body. We've been passed by about 3 cars the whole time we've been on this road, and we were there for a while. It was so nice to just ride a course and not be concerned about cars. Granted, it's a Saturday, but I suspect it's the same during the week, especially heading in this direction. There's no industry where we're going. There are tiny little sleepy towns that we're headed towards. The growth of the region is headed this way, but not that dramatically, not way out here. So hopefully it won't be that much of an impact. The only thing with these roads, you can see how they're all cracked a little bit. They're not kept up with as much or as frequently. But this one's in fairly decent shape. There were a few patches where I just pointed out, you know, to my riding partner what was coming. But it wasn't that bad. But I love how quiet it is. I'll take a crappy road that's quiet versus a smooth, busy road. So, you know, within reason, I guess. This is rideable. You can see some of the pavement here is a little chewed up. They've put asphalt over asphalt. Looks like it's been washed away a little.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling Paul, is all chewed up. So just take the weight off the bike, get through here. It's not that bad. I think there was an intersection coming. I think we're getting to a road called Hidden Forest Road. Yeah. I remember the names of the road because I studied the maps extensively before I even did the course to download to the Garmin. Because I wanted to be familiar with the area even if I wasn't able to get a course on the Garmin. So I familiarized myself with all the major routes before we got out there.
Yeah.
That way at any point in time you knew whether you were parallel to the main drag on the east side or the west side. So we kind of knew where we were with respect to the major thoroughfares out here. That's important. You want to have a general idea of where you are. But this road is a keeper. It's so quiet, just not. You were always up and down. And later on, we come across other riders on the main highways. They didn't use this road. So.
Look ahead, the road's still going up.
Paul's talking about. You can feel this, it's still rising. So it may say 1% and 2%, but you're on a climb, and so it's gonna change as you, but you're still on the climb. And you still have to be working. So the whole time we're fighting resistance. There's a car behind us here as we approach the main highway. And he's used this road enough so he knows that we're almost near the highway. So he just stays behind us. When I realized, yes, Paul's got him on camera. When I realized he's back there, he's patient. The highway's coming. Look at that. You see, he moved over because the road's so narrow. That truck, big truck, was taking up more of the road, you know. But he stayed there until we got to the main highway. Right here, we started to go slightly downhill, and I poured it on. It says -5. It was just a drastic change. So I looked back for him to see what he was doing and realized he was staying there. And there's the highway coming up. That's what this sign is for. I'm not sure what it says, but road work ahead. So they just paved this main highway. It is smooth as a baby's spine. So we get to this highway, and once again, I'm turned around, so I go left. Well, that's south. We want to go north. So I got all turned around. So when I turn, because I'm not on the map right now, and I don't have turn-by-turn directions enabled, it beeped. It said, off course, which is cool. That's why I told Paul, we're off course.
We're off course again?
So we stop, and what I do is I go to the map. I scroll to the map on my Garmin just to verify. And sure enough, I turned south instead of north. North was on the right. But I had gotten turned around on that road back there because it was windy. So we should be going that way. So as soon as it's clear, I check around that corner. There's a cyclist, triathlete. We could have used this road from the start, but it would have been boring. It's just straight like this. I like the way we came. And these are the things Paul and I are going to sit and look at the map as time permits. I want him to see in his mind's eye so he knows the area. So we start the ride. There's another triathlete behind us. And so we start the ride here. And that guy, he was like, on your left. And I told Paul, I said, what are you making all that noise for? He should have just gone. That's why I waved him over.
Supposed to go right. Somehow I got turned around.
I told Paul, he should have just come around. You don't need to be yelling. Just making all that noise on your left, this and that. Camera didn't pick it up, but we're out in the middle of nowhere making noise. So the second guy that's gonna come, all he says is, I think he says hi. He gives us room and he just goes. And I was telling Paul, now that's how you do it. You don't need to be yelling. But this is a nice shoulder. It's Highway 149. We're headed in a northwesterly direction. More north than west right now. But it's going towards a town called Richards. It's a nice highway. It's one of our, it's not a major highway. It shows up white on the map, which means they consider them to be a rural highway. But it's freshly paved, it's newly paved. That's the guy I'm talking about who knows how to do it. See how much room he gave us? He just said hi, he went on by. Instead of on your left and all that other stuff is not necessary. Sometimes you startle people. A lot of times I don't even say hi, I just like to flick my hand or wave if somebody looks. I don't like to bother people when they're riding along. We have no intention of following these guys. This route that we're doing, the way we took was a longer way to get out here. They came the more direct route. A lot of them will come out and back and do 30 miles on this highway, 149. That's probably what they're doing. We're doing 104 kilometers. They're doing about 50. So you need to realize that when you get out there, don't follow the wrong people. Even on the day of the Grand Fondo, they have so many routes. I think they have like 4 or 5 different choices. We're going to be doing 160 kilometers. We're not going to be following anybody. We're going to find groups that are doing the pace we want to do, and we'll sit with them on the flats and so forth to save energy. But we're going to be riding our own ride because not everybody will be doing 160 kilometers. Same thing on this ride. So all we did was we continued at our pace. This is our pace. We did not follow that guy. A lot of these guys come out here and they're doing a shorter ride, so they push harder. But some of them are getting ready for the Woodlands Marathon. There is a marathon that's held in the Woodlands in April. I don't have the date. I'll have to look it up, but it's coming up. And a lot of them come out here to prepare. And this is a good road to work on, your speed. Highway 149. It's a heavily traveled bicycle route by seasoned cyclists and inexperienced cyclists alike, because this is one of the recommended routes for the MS 150. So the guy's up there in the distance for quite a few miles. He stayed within our sight, and then it turned off somewhere. But we're not concentrating on him. All we're trying to do here is we're getting a feel for the route we're doing today. We're trying to learn the area. And so as we got out here, it became familiar because we've ridden out here before, but we have not done this exact route. So all I was doing in my mind was relating the roads we took to a road like this one that we had taken in the past. And I realized that we took the roundabout way to get out here, because they're adding those miles to it for the 160 kilometer course, which makes sense. But we needed to ride those miles to really see the route. So we saw about probably 60% of the course, and the next time we want to see the other 40%. And then hopefully the third time we come out here is do the entire course. That's our plan anyway, and we'll see if it pans out that way. Paul's sitting on my left to stay in the draft. at that road. Is that beautiful or what? The guys that paved this road pat themselves on the back. It's beautiful, it's smooth, it's clean. Even the shoulders are clean. I'm staying to the right to give Paul a good draft. The wind's swirling around. And I'm just staying because I know he's on my left towards the white line. Trying to make sure he has some room. I'm trying not to kill it here because even though the terrain here is favorable to do, say, 40K, I'm trying to make sure we have energy because we're only an hour into a 4-hour ride. Plus, we haven't been out here. I don't know the rest of the course. I know some of it. I remember some of it because we've been out here in the past. But we haven't ridden this area that frequently. So my goal is to save it for the hills. And there are some prairie parts of the ride where you're out in open country with lots of wind, and you really want to keep some energy for that because that's just as taxing as hills. There's a guy parked on the side of the road, his engine's running, so I move and use the main lane, give him plenty of room. Whenever you can, don't pass a car that's sitting there, especially that guy with the engine running, to where the door can affect your path. Assume they're going to open the door as a default and leave the room. Something's up. I'm not sure why I stopped. I'm waving to something. There must have been debris. Something on the road. That's another way to alert riders that are following you that something's up, is you stop pedaling. Because once you stop pedaling and they can't see anything obvious, they know something's up. The road's going up here slightly. It may say, and it says 0. I just like the beauty of the area, how quiet it is. No shopping centers on the right. Just when you get in the city, this is so much more interesting than looking at strip malls. The guy in front of us, you can't see him, but I can see him up that little incline where that car is headed towards. When he hit that hill, he was struggling. And that's why I told Paul, that guy's not firing too well. His gears were too big when he got up there. And it's like he hit a wall. I could tell. That's what Paul laughed at. When you ride long enough, you begin to observe those things. I don't bother the people they happen to unless they come to me and say they have a question or something. I can point that out, but it's just something that I share with Paul so he can use that in his reference. This is a climb. This is where he was bogging down. Because sometimes you make a decision, you think you can carry a gear, and then your body tells you different. So don't hesitate to shift when that happens. I like being on top of the gear I'm in, just out of habit. This is a beautiful highway, lovely shoulder. They did a great job. I wish all of them were like this. even on Fish Creek, they should have done a shoulder like this. What they put out there, even though it's 2 lanes, just, you know, should have given us a shoulder like this. This is about a 3-foot shoulder, nicely paved. It's perfect for a bicycle. You have room on either side of you. Should be a requirement. It may say 0, it's point something, and it's gonna probably register at 1 soon, but we're climbing here. Yeah, now it's kicking, now it's showing up, and look how quickly it gets to 4%. That's the kind of stuff you experience out in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking, I'm telling him, this is a bad boy bike. See our speeds went from 20 kilometers an hour to 33 at about the same effort. Now we're going downhill -2, and then it will level off where you see that curve. So if you don't pace yourself on a very long ride in this kind of terrain, you can get into some difficult problems, basically difficult situations. You have to err on the side of being conservative with your effort. So when we do the Grand Fondo, anybody we pass will be going slower than our speed for the 160 kilometers. Anybody else that goes too fast, that are doing shorter routes, we just won't ride with them. Because we don't want to waste our energy. And we want to save it for the last hour. That's when it counts. Because it will be at least 5.5 hours out there, maybe 6 in this terrain. I get on the drops because the wind is just out there. Lower my torso a little bit. Listen to that wind. Richards is a few miles up the road. I think it's about 7 miles up the road. The next town we're going to. This corner here will have a rest stop. You see that porta potty on the right? There's a guy over there, he waved at us. I told him good morning. That will be a rest stop. They usually use that because it's a nice wide dirt area that they can set up chairs and other stuff. So we're not gonna hit too many rest stops. We usually rest at maybe 2 hours, we'll stop, something like that. The 2 hour mark, maybe the 4 hour mark, we'll have 2 stops maybe, that's it. And that's another thing, you follow other people and they kill themselves and then they hit every stop. We don't have time for that. We want to just ride. That's why you got to have your own plan and have like-minded people to ride with. And when you're out there and a group comes by and the pace is reasonable, sit in. Let them tow you along. They won't mind. Listen to that wind. We're going slightly downhill. That's why it's easy to do 43 kilometers an hour in the wind. I love the way they built this road. This is nice. And having the 28 on the back did not slow me down much. So if any of you are on the fence, if you're over 160 pounds, consider it. If you're a light person, 150, there about 155, not that big a deal. But you can still benefit from a more comfortable ride. I mean, just like everybody else. But the big guys, you need a ride. You need to have some rubber on the road. At least a 25.
Oh yeah.
I was enjoying this climb. This is a climb. Just nice and gradual, and then it curves. Just pretty. It curves to the right. So, oh yeah. And you just look at my cadence. 84. I'm on a little rhythm here. I'm feeling it. Feeling good. Just kind of enjoying the bike. Now it says 90, 91. It picked up. The grade must have gone down. Yeah, it says 0. So I'm taking what the climb gives me. As long as the climb does not cause my cadence to drop too low, I don't shift. There's a church on the right here we passed. Yeah, it's a church on the right there. I saw that on the map. Yeah, this is the sign. And yet another climb. That's why you have to be conservative. So when the road allows, I spin. Keeps my legs fresh for the next time it goes up. And when there's a doubt, I downshift. Sometimes 2 cogs in the back at once. Because it's better to have a lower gear than a higher one. A lower gear than you need. See how much everything is repeated. Here again, we're going downhill, and what I do is I get my cadence up, and I find a gear that will allow me to keep my cadence respectable, to take advantage of the speed, because that's where you make up some time. Look at the cyclists across there. You take advantage. You want to keep so your overall traveling time is low. You got to take advantage of the downhills and the flat areas as well, so you don't have to kill yourself in the climbs too much. What I was telling Paul here is that road on the right that you see me pointing to that we just passed is another option for taking like a back road and get off this highway. This is the same highway, but this part of it, the shoulder is pretty much non-existent, and so we have to use the main lanes. And it is a busy highway. The speeds, I think, is about 55 for cars. Speed limit for everybody. So a lot of times some cyclists will go on the right and take like a bypass. That gets them a little further down the road. That's what I was pointing out. We have traveled that way when we used to ride with the UMC group a little over a year ago. This road starts to go up, you can see it. So all I do here is I keep shifting to find the right gear that I will stay on top of. I probably went down 2 cogs. I think I stayed on the big chainring. I only use the small chainring once on this ride, and you will see where and why. That's why I'm explaining to Paul that if we were to take that road, we will be parallel to this road, maybe about 2 kilometers to the right of this road, and then we'll eventually come back maybe about 5 kilometers down. Right here's a climb. Yeah, it says 1, 2, yeah. You can see it. It gets there quickly. So you need to be in the right gear before it bites. As soon as you feel the road going up, downshift a couple of cogs to where you're ahead of the climb, especially if it's a long climb. You don't have to find the exact gear because you don't want the exact gear, because when the climb gets steeper and you have the exact gear at the base, it may be too hard.
Punch in just on the very last one.
So you see I got my upper body involved just to keep that gear rolling. My cadence went a little below 80. It's okay if that happens for a short period, that's fine. Because sometimes you're in a rhythm, you don't want to shift, that's okay. It doesn't need to be perfect all the time. It's a range, as long as you don't sit there all day. So now the climb is over, it says -0, we're going slightly downhill. I begin to now shift up through the gears. You have to keep riding. So what I do is I shift up to keep the pressure on my legs that I felt on the climb and take advantage of the downhill. That's how you ride the rollers. So overall, your traveling time will be reasonable. I think this is the road I was talking about, that bypass. If we had taken it, would have dumped us right where that truck is. That road. I think I mentioned to Paul, this is where you would come out. This is a driveway. This is a driveway. It should be coming up soon. It's called Welch. The road is called Welch Road. That's it up there. There were a lot of motorcyclists out today. In groups. You'll see them. This is the road that would have come back on. It's just on your bypass, but it's such a short area, and that road's a little crappy. So, and it's got some nice climbs too. So I told Paul maybe next time we'll try it. The road's going up here. You see, it went. I mean, it gets there in a hurry, so it robs your speed. You've got to be ready. So I do it by feel. As soon as I feel it, I downshift a couple of cogs because I knew it was going to be long. So you go down a little easier than you normally would on a short bump, so that you can ride the climb without bogging down. So even though my cadence says 75 or whatever, I know I can handle this gear. So I say, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and let my legs do some work here and not try to go down anymore. And you can see my cadence is going back. It went to like 70, 72, now it's going back up. And sometimes when you start a climb, it takes a little bit to get into a rhythm. I'm staying on the white line. It's a busy road, it's narrow. It helps them come around us on these blind curves a lot easier. It's not busy in either direction, so I don't mind staying where I am. I want to make it easier for them to see around us and make a decision to come around. You see how I'm pulling up? That's what I focus on when I'm climbing. The back part of the stroke, because gravity does the rest. The road's going down, so I'm going to go through the gears again. You can see my cadence is going up. You don't have to know what gear you're in. Just do it by feel. Get in a gear that feels good. So you can see how my legs just look like they're moving freely. That comes from being properly supported on the saddle. Your legs are free to do what they need to do. You're not compensating for any discomfort. You just look at my legs, they're just freely turning the pedals. When you have the balance and everything set on your bike, you can do that without thinking about it. We're going up again. So I'm shifting, my hand's on the right shifter. Our heart rate had dropped because we went on that downhill for quite some time. This is a grade. There we go, 1%. It gets there quickly. It just keeps going. It bites, gets you up. We covered about 800 plus meters on this ride. You want to look like you're floating on your bike. And the bike is just at a point in space supporting your body. And your legs are free to do what they need to do. I think this is part of the National Forest. Yeah, there's a sign on the left there, that brown sign. On the way back, we take a picture there. This is the National Forest that we're going through. They got Smokey Bear on that sign as well. I thought that was cool. So we stopped, got off the bike when we're returning, and took some pictures. Even though the shoulder is very narrow, I'm riding there because we're climbing, we're going so slow. It made sense just to stay out of the main lanes. If we were going fast, I would use the main lanes because it would be safer. When the speeds are low, you can do that. Look at this road. Beautiful. I told Paul to come lead us. I think we're near Richards. There's a town coming up called Richards. Listen to that wind. What I'm telling Paul is to not downshift and try to finish this climb in that gear since it's short. That's how you strengthen your legs. On short climbs, you can muscle over them quickly, especially since it's a training ride. Do it harder than you would in a Grand Fonda.
Like back there, you did 2 shifts. Next time, the first time you shift, get in that gear, spin a little bit, and let the hill flow down. See what I mean? Down, go lower, it's easier to shift up.
So what I was telling Paul there is, if you shift down and then within a few seconds you got to shift down again, then you need to start considering to just shift twice the first time you shift. Click down 2 cogs, spin a little faster in that one because you know the hill's gonna kick in. And that way you're not shifting all the time. That's what we're talking about there. Those are the things that minimizes what you've got to do, especially if you're riding with other riders. So when there's a doubt, go to a lower gear than you think you're gonna need. Let the cadence go up, because the hill will slow your cadence down, but you'll be in the right combination when the hill does kick in. I hope that makes sense. Because I noticed he'd been shifting a lot, and he's still getting used to the 34. He rides a 3450 on this bike, so we talked about it even after the ride. So he's got it down. So even sometimes if the gear feels a little heavy, if the climb is almost over, just stand and power over it. Instead of trying to shuffle around, especially if you're going from big to small and then shifting down in the middle and the back, that kind of stuff. So this says 2%. It's a gradual grade. As we rode this terrain more and more, the hours went by. You end up developing a feel for what it's doing. And pretty soon, even the 4% climbs didn't seem that difficult at the end. You see the climb in the distance? That's our view. Look at that bad boy. That's when you start wishing that you had slept enough last night.
Let's slow down. Let's go. Get over that sucker.
Paul was hesitating. He was close. I said, "Come on, let's go. Let's get over this sucker." Look at that bad boy, Jack. 2%, 3%. It gets there in a hurry, man. This is the kind of terrain that gets you in shape fast. You ride it well, yeah, it can be a lot of fun. We're close to a little town called Richards, I believe. Listen to that wind. You would think the wind would take a break since you're climbing. Wind's like, man. Paul calls this the open road, meaning there are no stoplights, no stop sign, no reprieve. You just ride. Listen to that wind. So Paul lets this driver know we're going. He waves at him. They probably think we're crazy riding bikes out here, all these hills and wind. Tough terrain here. The terrain for the hard men. This is one of the areas that the MS-150 recommends to people who are going to participate in that event, because they ride from Houston to Austin in 2 days. And that is the heart of the Texas hill country. And they've got some walls on that ride. So you got to prepare. I'm telling Paul we're going to be fighting this wind on the way home. Listen to that thing. It's blowing from the south. So we're headed west and it's coming from our left. So I'm sitting on Paul's right. And he keeps moving over to the white line. I'm like, give him my draft. The wind's blowing him. So the wind is coming from the left mostly. That's what you're hearing. It's coming from the south. We're headed west. I changed the camera. I moved the camera to my left hand. And you can't even tell. It's just pretty much view stays the same thanks to the gimbal. This is the outskirts of Richards, I believe. Start seeing these signs. Yep, there's a sign for Richards. Was that Grimes? Oh, Grimes County. Okay, that's the Grimes County sign. We're out of Montgomery County. The nearby county is Grimes. The area we live in is called Harris County. And then we've got Grimes County and Montgomery County nearby, depending on whether you go west or north. Grimes is to the west and Montgomery is to the north. And when you go southeast, they've got Liberty County, San Jacinto County. They got other counties in the area. I give Paul the camera here. I give him a break. You see where I am? Because I know the wind's coming from the left. So I'm planted right there so he can have a draft. I'm riding this black, chilly looking asphalt. That's the smoothest one. Just sweet. And I'm seeking it out. That's where I want my tires to roll. I always look for the sweetest spot where possible. Because right here is not that busy. We're coming into Richards, a quiet little sleepy town. Like out of the old west. So riding where I'm riding, your chances of flats just drops. tremendously because the cars have already cleaned that area. It's nice and smooth. So whenever possible, that's where you should ride. You know, when the road's busy, you can't always do that. But where we are now, there's nothing. There's a cyclist going the opposite way. These are the people that are preparing for the MS 150. We'll come across quite a few of them. And the levels of skill vary. We'll see a lot of riders that are pedaling so slowly. I'm like, man, that ruins the experience. But you can tell they just haven't been doing it. But it's good to see them out there. There's a bump right there where that bridge met the pavement. It always is. They never line them up very well. But with that 28 on the back, man, it just soaked it up. I lifted up a little out of habit, which you should. With the bigger tires, you have less of a deformation of the tire, so your sidewall is not as exposed to cuts and other things. So there's just so many benefits to having larger tires, and I don't see anything that detracts from it. You know, your bike can take it. There's no reason not to have it. They're comfortable. They roll faster, so why not? For what we know. We're entering the outskirts of Richards in Grimes County, Texas. There's a car, that's why I moved over. I heard him. Yeah, give him some room. The tracks are kind of uneven here. I found the smoothest spot. So once we get into town, you turn off the power. It gives you an opportunity to chat. When we turn the curve up there, I tell Paul, I remember this place. I've been here before. The roads just weren't familiar, but I've been here before with other groups, other people, other rides we've done have come through here. So at this point, we arrive in Anderson, Texas, miles after leaving Richards. We turn on the camera as we hit the hill. That's the main side entrance into Anderson. They have several ways to get in here. This is Highway 1774, which is very steep. So I rolled to the front with the camera. You can see it says 4%. So I put the camera in my right hand. I'm trying to stand, and I had just turned on the camera. Paul didn't even know it was on. Because we left Anderson a while ago and we turned the camera off. Richards a while ago. We turned the camera off until we got to Anderson. And right here, this hill, you can see it says 7. It was very steep and it gets there in a hurry. So it hovered between 5 and say 8%. It was like a wall. It came up in such a hurry that even my breathing was a little compromised. And the next time we come back, there's a different way to come in. It has an even steeper entrance, and we'll try that the next time. That's the stuff I want to show Paul on the map.
Right turn. I remember
Paul
that
said
hill.
you're kidding.
They usually will go down over there to some store back there. We don't need a store.
There was another entrance we had used when we came the last time with another group.
I don't know what the grade was. It's a wall. That's how you search it. So look at this guy.
Paul was looking for gears. He was shifting. You got that
Anderson,
34.
man.
Put it to use.
It says, "Welcome to Anderson." Check your lungs at the door.
Anderson is the top of hill. So anywhere you come in from east to west, you're going to be climbing to get in. And we're going to take a back way here to leave, and that's another way to come in.
Yeah.
Coming to Anderson, the highway leading here is boring. Turned it on. We started coming down, that's the hill, and the camera was in my pocket, man. I hustled it out. Oh, it's on. I filmed it. Did you see it in my hand? Turn right, turn right. This is 149 here.
This is another way to come in. We're going down, but to come in, that's another way we're going to come in next time. This is 149.
I told you about it. You remember you came here before?
This way is even steeper. So next time we're gonna take Highway 149 to come into town.
It used to be really slippery.
Just so Paul can experience it. So there are multiple ways. We're just doing the actual course this time.
We're just at 10 miles away.
This way we're going down. If we're coming up, it's even steeper.
That's the only time I got in a small chain ring. For that bad boy.
So you can see it. Imagine we'll be coming the other way if we were coming into town this way. It's a longer climb and it's much steeper. So next time, that's how we're coming in, just for the experience. Because now we're going downhill at 44 kilometers an hour easily without pedaling. These are busy rural roads. The speed limit is like 55, so the traffic's moving. So we just stay next to the line here. They're pretty good about that.
We're gonna need to change the battery, son.
The battery's low.
Yeah.
Look at that, speed limit 70 on this road.
We've been running that thing almost 2 hours. That was the only time I got on the small chain ring.
That's why I like the quieter roads. So you know, these roads are okay if you have a lot of cyclists, but you know, at these higher speeds, you got to be moving.
So you have to search.
But, you know, they're still fine. It's not heavily traveled.
And you stand. Change your rhythm.
I've got the camera angled back to give a different view. We've been climbing for a better part of 2.5 hours, and we're both beginning to feel the sting. You know, it's like it's relentless. And this is a climb here. It says 4%. It's more than that. Yeah, that goes to 5. I'm smiling. I'm actually enjoying this ride. It's nice. I used to hate climbing.
I had the thing in my right hand. Gimbal was all cockeyed, and I was standing and sitting.
The gimbal did a good job of that climb into town because it was all over the place. I was struggling with it because I had to do it in a hurry. I get out my pocket while it popped up as a surprise. Look at this thing. If we were coming the opposite way.
We're going to Austin.
So next time we're coming back that way.
Like the MS.
Look at the terrain in the distance. Look out the rollers. At this point in the ride, with all the hill climbing we've been doing for 2.5 hours, our legs are a little tired.
I don't know how you missed that thing. It looked like a wall. When I saw that sucker, I was like,
we're talking about a hill into Anderson.
oh yeah, it was on. You didn't see the camera in my hand when I came by? Shit, it was already on before I came by.
So at this point, we're letting our cadence just fall wherever it wants. We're really trying to recover more than anything. You can see my cadence is a little low, but I'm just using force. Paul comes to get the camera.
Listen for the beeps because the
battery's low, so I'm letting him know to listen because the camera will beep when the power runs out. So this is not my optimal climbing cadence, but this feels good at this point. And I'm just doing exactly what my body wants to do. So I don't care about the cadence. I'm just riding. It's almost like my body's trying to catch its breath in a way.
Yeah, I see.
I'm trying to get into some kind of a rhythm. It's saying 3%, and I dropped to 2. It was a little more than that, and you can see it continues for quite a bit. So right here, I let the cadence settle where it wants. That's what my body wants to do. Now I'm picking it up a little bit. That's what you have to do. You listen to your body. It's almost like my body was blocked up after we went through the town of Anderson.
Yeah. That's what kills you, man.
That's what we're talking about. The hills are just back to back. And that's the reason why we went out there to ride them. If you're not accustomed to that much climbing, it takes some getting used to.
Yep. Here, we'll tell you I'm still here.
So I'm trying to stay really smooth, even though my cadence is lower than where I like it. But right then, it feels fine. And I'm doing what my body wants to do at that moment. We don't usually climb almost 900 meters in one ride, so that's why we're gonna do this at least 3 times before the Grand Fondo. But if you notice, my form is still the same. Even though my cadence is down, I'm still pedaling the same, because your brain teaches your legs what to do. It doesn't matter what cadence you're doing, they do the same form. So I'm still spinning smoothly, just at a lower cadence. And right here, it lets up a little bit. Yeah, it says 0. And my cadence picks up. And this is when I'm trying to wake up my legs. This is almost like they forgot what we were doing. Whenever I'm in rolling terrain, unless we're really going down a fast downhill, I just stay on the tops. Because right here we're still climbing slightly. One of these roads has a slight grade the entire way. It looks flat, but it's not. It does not feel flat. You know you're climbing.
They're prepared, man. They are prepared.
Spot another cyclist here, going the opposite way. We're going downhill, so they're working hard on the opposite side of the road. You see my heart rate is down because we're going downhill. There's another one. So everybody's out here getting ready for the events that are coming up next month. All the serious riders are out here. The road kicks up here. It's getting a little bit. It kicks up. Pavement surface is not particularly smooth or anything, so you're working the whole time. And what I do, as soon as I hear there's a car coming around, if you notice, I drift closer to the white line just to make it easier for them to get around us quickly. There is no shoulder, that's where you ride. And then as they're coming around, if it's safe, you can drift over to the right, make it easier for them to get by. You want them to get by as quickly, as safely as possible. We're going downhill this whole stretch. So even though it says here, it says -0 now, got good speed because of the rolling terrain's favoring us. So you take advantage of that. Now it's gonna kick up. As the road begins to go up, you will hear me shortly yell at the cows. They're on the left side in that fence area. As I hear voices going on, those are the cows there. They look clumped together, look like right there on the left. I stand up just to change the way I'm using my muscles primarily. I'm not really concerned about my cadence. This is just zone 2. We're just climbing. We're not hammering the hill. Yet another cyclist rolls by. When you're standing, your main focus should be pulling up because you're standing, gravity helps you on the downstroke tremendously. So you don't have to think about that. To go down and kick up my cadence, another cyclist going the opposite way again. Shortly after this, we stopped to change the battery in the camera. The entire time we're chatting because the wind is favorable. It's not blowing as much, so we can still talk. Another cyclist going the opposite way. I think that was a lady. A lot of them are on time trial bikes. I think they're getting ready for that Woodlands Marathon. I think it's an Ironman. It's one of the Ironman races that they have. They have to do a bike ride, they have to swim, and then they run. Yeah. I got a nice downhill here, so I basically work on keeping my legs spinning, help them recover. The battery quit on us and ran out, so we stopped.
Come on, you can do it. Come on, push.
And this is after I put the battery in. We stopped there to put the battery in, and we saw these riders going up that hill.
Man.
Those hills are hard.
It's tough. You're on, man.
So I was encouraging them.
We're gonna film for a little bit, and then we'll cut it off. Okay. So what I want to do is, I want to do the last stretch.
Yeah.
on the downside of this ride. It's almost 3 hours into the ride. At this point, I was letting Paul know that this is another part of the optional routes they will have. People will be able to choose whether to take that road to shorten the route if they want to. That guy was wearing tights and everything. It was just too warm for that outfit. You can hear the wind, and so I get in the drops to try to cheat the wind. And then we start getting passed by a lot of motorcyclists. These roads are frequented by motorcycle clubs. That's the first guy. You can see these guys go in the opposite direction. But there will soon be some coming in our direction as well. I think somewhere here I tried to use that little shoulder and it just seemed very rough. I'm not sure if it's here or not. But you see this group of motorcyclists again. There were a bunch of them out there. They must be here where I jumped on the curb for a little bit on the shoulder and came right back. You see all these guys. They're just out on a leisurely cruise. Motorcycle club. Road's going up here. You feel it before you really see any kind of readings. So Paul gets to the front to lead us here. So on this part of the route, we're backtracking, heading back towards Richards, the little town that we hit before we got to Anderson. Because this is the exact way the Grand Fonda will run.
Next one, when you're about to crest, and it gets hard, mix it up. Shift down sometimes. Sometimes you.
I was giving Paul some tips on mixing up the shifting. Shifting down sometimes even shift up if it's a short climb to just get over the bump. That's how you build your strength. You can see it got a little quieter for the camera there. And these motorcyclists again. There was just a bunch of different groups out here. I'm in the draft, and so you can see it's quiet. The wind noise is down. I'm on Paul's left. The wind is blowing from the right and in our face. We're headed east and we've got a southwesterly wind, I think. It's a warm day. We're on the outskirts of Richards. Richards, Texas. It's one of these little towns, if you blink, you miss it. We have our bottles still full, so we have no need to stop in Richards for any reason. It's an overcast day, we're not drinking as much, so we go ahead and just roll through this town. We've been through here before on the way out. The route backtracks probably about a third of the way, and then we deviate on a road called Bethel Road, where we end up doing some yo-yoing with a couple of riders, female riders on time trial bikes. And so it's a little interesting in the end. We pretty much, after the first time they come back around, I basically give it a stick and we don't see them again. But we only passed them because they were going slow. I wasn't trying to pass them. We passed them because they were in the way. They seem to only want to ride hard when the road is flat or downhill. They don't seem to like the climbs, which was strange, but you'll see it soon. It's pretty interesting. Right after we get out of Richards, on the highway out of here, there's a national forest that we go through, so we decide to stop and take a picture. You know, Smokey Bears on the sign, a picture of it. I thought that was kind of cool. See a lot of cyclists on the way out of town, out of Richards. They're coming into Richards. A lot of them are preparing, like I said earlier, for the MS-150.
Because we just realized we're in a national forest.
Yeah.
This is, look at Smokey Bear.